It's 2 weeks into training camp, and there are a ton of things to discuss, and we're going to hit on all of them on this episode of Circling the Wagons.
Hi, I'm former Buffalo Bills wide receiver Don Beebe, and you're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circling the Wagons podcast, because nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo! Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo!
The Bills make me wanna shout!
Welcome to the Circling the Wagons podcast, a podcast discussing the Bills all year round with interviews, news, recaps, and insightful fan discussion. Most times. Here's your host and lifelong Bills fan, Nate.
Hey Bills Mafia, welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo fan-based podcast. I am your host, Nate, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Another episode. We are 2 weeks away from our last episode and 2 weeks since training camp has started. And there is a lot of things to discuss, things that have happened recently, things that have been going on since the very beginning of training camp, and some potential hold-ins from a certain running back on the Buffalo Bills roster, and injuries. So many injuries to discuss. But first, I'd like to welcome my co-host of the podcast, John. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, speaking of injuries, real quick, got to get this out of the way. Wanted to formally apologize over the podcast for the breaking news that we put over social media about Maxwell Hairston's injury. Turned out not to be true. Thank God. I was wrong, completely wrong. Got information from a source that had been correct multiple times and thought it was right again, and he was not. So definitely want to put that out there. Sorry to Maxwell Hairston, the Bills team, organization or whatever, and the fan base. Sorry I misled you. Obviously, I thought I was right on this one. Wanted to be right. Well, I don't want to be right. I wanted to be wrong because it was terrible news. The news was that I said that he torn his ACL from the information that I had within the organization, and it wasn't right. So yeah, want to put that out there. So if you're listening to hear that or have any idea what's going on, or if you want to hear that, there it is. If you have no idea what's going on, just forget I just said that and don't bother checking my timeline because it's not going to be worth it. So, John, the injuries are the biggest topic, one of the biggest topics going on at training camp right now. As of the day that we're recording this on Sunday, they had practice today, 9th practice, day 9 of training camp. And the following players were non-participants in practice. We have offensive lineman Alec Anderson, offensive lineman Cedric Van Pran Granger, safety Cole Bishop, safety Taylor Rapp, cornerback Maxwell Hairston, which we found out is out he's week to week at this point, excuse me, but he might be out for 3 to 4 weeks around that time frame, I guess, for what we've been hearing. So that's a big deal. Linebacker Dorian Williams, wide receiver Curtis Samuel, wide receiver Khalil Shakir, wide receiver Joshua Palmer, wide receiver Caden Prather. I said a lot of wide receivers there. Linebacker Shaq Thompson, kicker Tyler Bass, and fullback Reggie Gilliam. So, John, that's a lot of names right there. It's a ton of names. Injuries, to me, has been the biggest topic coming out of training camp. I want to make bigger things out of the backup quarterback. Who's getting, more reps? Is it Mike White or Mitchell Trubisky? Trying to make, training camp storylines and battles out of other things. But when it comes down to it, I think injuries just it's catastrophic. Not catastrophic. I don't want to say it that badly, but there's a lot of injuries on the team. It's unfortunately the biggest storyline, I think. When you see this list, what are your thoughts? And is there a position group or certain players that worry you the most when you see who didn't participate today?
Well, yeah, it's definitely concerning having that many injuries. I think a number of the players is just precautionary. Being in training camp and you want to rest guys at the onset of anything. Hairston, I think, is probably the most significant. The LCL sprain, that's going to last several weeks. He's penciled in as the week 1 starter. Could that still happen, or is Trey White going to have to fill in? I think that's the most concerning still.
So, John, if you were real quick, I want to list all the top injuries. So you just listed Maxwell Hairston as one of your biggest worrisome injuries. What's funny about that situation is before he got injured, Trey White was getting a majority of the cornerback one snaps, which is crazy. We mentioned it on the podcast when we were previewing training camp a couple of weeks ago that on the defensive side, we're like, oh, well, Trey White's probably going to start out as the starter just because he knows the system. He's been here before. It's a nod to the veteran. That happens sometimes with these guys. And then, maybe they lose their job a few days later to a cornerback, with a lot of promise or a rookie or someone like that, like Maxwell Hairston. But he did not lose his job even before the injury, which is crazy. I don't think that's as much a knock against Hairston as it was how well Trey White has been playing. So when you said week one starter, I could definitely see it potentially happening if he was still healthy, but he wasn't. That's actually, besides injuries, which, this leads into, but one of the biggest storylines of training camp to that point was Trey White playing over Maxwell Hairston, which is, I mean, we saw it coming, but we didn't see it sticking, like it was after 3 or 4 or 5 days. I mean, when did Hairston get injured? Last Friday? So, I mean, they were 5-6 days into training camp. They'd already done a padded practice when this happened. So I was surprised, but I think that's not a bad thing because it sounds like it's more Trey White playing better than Hairston just not playing that well,
Yeah, I don't know. I just have Harrison above White in my head. So
I think he'll get there. Well, if he's, I mean, who knows?
Camp, and obviously not with the injury, it makes it in White's favor. But they did draft 3 defensive backs in the draft. They got Dorian Strong, Joe Porter, and and Dane Jackson was brought in too. So lots of options.
And it sounds like Dorian Strong's doing well too, which is a great sign. I mean, excuse me, you hate to see injuries, of course. Everyone hates it. But the positive side of that is those guys like Dorian Strong getting second team snaps that he normally wouldn't get, right?
Yeah. I like all of these guys. I just think would think that their first round pick would be a day one starter, but the injury definitely skews that.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, what's good is he is coming back. So I mean, even if he's not the starter day one, he's probably the best backup in the entire NFL. At any starting quarterback position.
Yeah, I think at some point early this season, he's going to be the starter. It's just unfortunate he's going to miss out on all these training camp and preseason reps. But no, I really like him a lot.
So I have the 3 top injuries that worry me. And us on the podcast, we usually try to stay optimistic, but the next one after Hairston, I think for me is Khalil Shakir for the Bills because he's a week-to-week injury as well. So it's when you hear him in the same breath as Hairston is week to week, that's a little worrisome. It's like, well, I want him to be like next week, like I want him to be back here a lot sooner. So I forget exactly. Oh, Shakir suffered a high ankle sprain during Friday's return of the blue and red practice. So high ankle sprain, not ideal. That is not the sprain that you want for your top wide receiver from a practice that didn't matter in a scrimmage. So not ideal there. John, that one bothers me just because he is, at this point, I apologize. Hold on. Jeez, I got something stuck in my throat. That worries me the most out of the next. What's that?
That's what she said.
John, I love you, man. Why? So Shakir, Hairston, Shakir. If Khalil Shakir isn't ready week one, that worries me. I mean, we mentioned 4 receivers: Curtis Samuel, Shakir, Joshua Palmer, Caden Prather. I mean, those are 3 of your top 5 wide receivers out right now. And the Bills have big plans for Shakir and Palmer. And Curtis Samuel was going to be a roster lock, but he's as injured as he's always been, it feels like. So that worries me to a point, especially because the beginning of their schedule is the toughest. So that's when you want them the healthiest. So, John, do you have Shakir as your next one, or do you have someone else as your most worrisome injury thus far?
Shakir makes a lot of sense. He's their best receiver. We're just hoping on the other ones. We're hoping that either Josh Palmer or Elijah Moore become something. We're hoping that Keon Coleman takes that next step. I still have faith in Keon Coleman, but yeah, Shakir's their best guy. And after Allen and Cook, who maybe we'll talk about later, He's the next best offensive player. Maybe Deion Dawkins. I'd put Deion Dawkins up there too, but they're all up there, right?
Of the skills players, though, I mean, I think it's got to go Shakir and James Cook as the top guys, right? And then after that, it's, a bunch of other guys that, like, at any given moment could be good or be somewhat average. So those are the two guys that seem to just stand out of that group. So we hit on Shakir. We'll talk about Cook a little bit later, like you said. John, what's the next one for you? Or do you have a next injury that worries you out of those 13 I mentioned?
What were the ones?
Oh, so we mentioned Hairston and Shakir. What about between Alec Anderson, Van Granger, Bishop, Rapp, Dorian Williams, Samuel Palmer?
So I mean, I don't really like. What's the? It really depends on what these injuries are and the severity and all that. Like, I'm pretty confident in our offensive line depth. I'm pretty confident in the offensive depth in general. It seems like they got a great defensive line rotation going on. The defensive backs look pretty good, especially corner. I'm not sure about safety, which we already talked about. And linebacker might be weak depth-wise, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I think if I were to put one person that worries me, only because he has missed several practices to this point, and he is expected to have a big role in this defense, it's Cole Bishop when I look at that list. Because, we mentioned Hairston, Khalil Shakir, Cole Bishop, we hopefully have penciled in as the starter for the Bills safety group for years to come. And last year he had several different injuries during training camp and just couldn't stay healthy because he was supposed to be getting that job. And Damar Hamlin got it because he was available, right? Availability. That's one of the best assets you can have during training camp. And he hasn't had it, unfortunately. So Taylor Rapp is a relatively new injury where he didn't practice, but the Cole Bishop one worries me. I want him to be ready. I have nothing against Damar Hamlin. I like Damar Hamlin. I just want a guy with more upside. I want a guy that just brings more physically, and Cole Bishop is, uber talented athletically. Like, he's a 9 out of 10 on the RAS score, right? And Bills don't normally have that at safety. So I'm hoping that he can be that guy. And then when you mention groups of players, I mean, they're both starting safeties are out right now. So it wasn't necessarily the strongest group on paper yet because they haven't proven a ton together between Bishop and Rapp, but the depth behind them is scary. So that one scares me the most. John, is the safety group the one out of the groups of positions, or is it wide receiver or something else?
No, I agree. And it's one of the positions they didn't necessarily address the most. I know Jordan Hancock I like a lot. Yeah, I mean, you're always going to be weak somewhere. And for me right now, it's going to be safety, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if that's something they maybe address next year. Or, it's funny. I see Dane Cook's top positions and players and positions in the draft, and I want to take a look at them, but I'm like, I haven't even thought about the Bills' weakest positions really right now. Like, if they were to have the draft tomorrow, I mean, what position would you be looking at for the Buffalo Bills? Would it be safety, like with the roster they have right now? Or, I mean, even looking into next year when, Connor McGovern is going to be a free agent, David Edwards is going to be a free agent. Who else? I can't even remember who else. I know there's one other player that's a decent name that could be up, but it's like, I don't know who they would be drafting, but now that we're talking about it, maybe safety.
Let me ask you this. Like, let's say next year they're drafting, and this is their roster right now. They have this exact roster. If you could draft a Hall of Famer at any position, what would it be?
With
this exact roster.
I just flipped my complete answer after you said that, because I think that there's a player at a position that would mean the difference in potentially them getting to the Super Bowl and winning it. And to me, that's defensive end. If they got a Hall of Fame defensive end, opposite of Greg Rousseau, that's a game changer for the Bills, especially how they've played late in the playoffs, not being able to get pressure and stuff like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they've been trying to do for the whole time McDermott's been here. He's been trying to get a pass rush, and they haven't. They've been drafting all these defensive linemen. They've been bringing in Von Miller and Joey Bosa, and they've been trying. But this hasn't worked yet.
It's definitely not for lack of trying through free agency or drafting, they just haven't hit on anyone like hit, you know? It feels like players like in the end of the first round, like teams will draft a defensive end or defensive tackle or in the third or fourth round. And those are the guys that, will lead the team in sacks. And we just can't seem to find that guy. We had Von Miller for 11 games, and that was it. And that was
he was good. He was really good. And then he got hurt again. Like, he was good. Like, it was a good trade. But then, you can't predict that.
No.
So maybe Joey Bosa will be really good. If he doesn't get hurt, maybe that'll be the answer.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, this is with worries about, the groups, the players. So we've said Maxwell Hairston, Khalil Shakir, and Cole Bishop are our biggest worries. And then positionally wise, safeties, wide receivers are literally, like we mentioned, three of their five top wide receivers are out right now. And you could argue that two of their best ones, potentially with Palmer and Shakir, are out. So we still have to wait. Like you said, I believe in Coleman too. I think he could have a good year. He's kind of had a hit and miss training camp. Like, it hasn't been consistently good or bad. It's kind of been, he's had his drops. He's had really good plays. It just hasn't been completely consistent, but that's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not going to look at that as he's having a bad camp. I say he's having an okay camp. Let's wait to see how it goes into the season, and the Bills might need to rely on him, and how can he answer when he's being relied on that much? So that's next up. So, John, the biggest news besides injuries, which we've covered, is running back James Cook. So I don't know about you, but I thought when mandatory minicamps happened in June that James Cook reporting was obviously a good thing. That meant that, he's going to play out the year. He shows up to training camp, starts practicing from day one, going to play out the year. Everything's going to be good. And then all of a sudden, as of today, he just stopped practicing. And when people asked him why he wasn't practicing, was it an injury? He said business. And when asked when he thought he might be practicing again, he said business. So, John, there are two different schools of thought on why he's doing it. Now, you have one side that's saying he's not practicing because he's holding in, meaning that he's not going to play until he gets a new contract. It's the difference of holding out. If you're holding out, you're not showing up to training camp. He showed up. He's just not practicing. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought, and I want to know which one you think is more likely happening, is that he and the Bills are very close to a contract negotiation. And since they're so close, in the final days right before that, or the final day...
I don't think it's whatever you're saying right now.
The final day, right before all this goes down, you don't want to come down with a major injury, risking that entire contract, right? So that is one of the schools of thought that...
I think it's a combination. I think it's why get hurt in practice, right? Why risk it then? He's going to play the season, in my opinion, so that he can prove himself for other teams to get that huge deal. Why risk getting injured? I think he's willing to. He's not willing to get injured in the regular season, but I think that's what's going to have to be. But to get that contract, but he's not willing to get injured in training camp or practice or preseason. Get there, if that makes sense. So I think it's that combination of things.
I think that makes a lot more sense than both schools of thought that I put out earlier. And to be honest, I'd be okay with him sitting out the entire training camp if that means he'll be ready to go week one. I mean, we know he's capable. He's in a contract year, so he's going to try his butt off, right? And then, by the way, we're also going to give a ton of reps to Ray Davis, a guy who might be replacing him in 2026. I like all these options. I mean, if I could rep Josh Allen up in a bubble or whatever, like I would do that too. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, John. I like your methodology. I still don't think the Bills give him a contract, at least nothing close to $15 million. And I don't think he's willing to go much lower. Would it be weird? So we mentioned bad looks over social media by yours truly. Would it be a bad look for James Cook to constantly talk about the number 15 million, 15 million, 15 million, and then him to take a contract from the Buffalo Bills for $8 million a year? Is that a bad look, or would anyone really care? Should you care?
wouldn't care. I mean, it's his own decisions. I'm just a fan. I just want to see the Bills do good.
Exactly. I like that he's on an expiring contract because I know that the guys try harder. I was listening to Eric Wood's podcast, and he said that when they were scoping out matchups for the next week on the offensive line, they would say, "Watch so and so. He's up for a contract after this season. Like they know he's going to be playing that much harder, and that's what you want from these guys like James Cook, who's on a contract. We want him to have a career year because whether he comes back or not, this could be the season."
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're always trying hard. It doesn't matter if they're contract year or not. Like that was a big thing in fantasy football for years. Like it probably still is, where it's like, oh, it's a contract year for this receiver, so he can play really hard. Like, well, they're always playing really hard. Like that's so stupid. I was such an idiot for listening to those guys. Like it doesn't matter.
Dude, it's true though. Like you know that they're always trying hard. They're always trying hard.
It's such a competitive sport.
It is. They're always trying hard, but like, let's say you're at that. It's for us, like to consider how we would play hard compared to They're playing hard. Like they're playing so much harder than us on a regular basis, like than we could potentially physically, whatever. But for them, like that extra 1% trying harder is a bigger
that
deal.
was the worst, dude. That was the worst thing. Growing like. When I was playing soccer and the coach was like, you gotta give 110%. Like, well, the 100% is the most you can give. Where's the extra 10% coming from? Contract year? No, it's 100% or nothing. Like, this is so stupid. You're always playing as hard as you can. You're playing a competitive sport. You're always playing as hard as you can. You love it. Like that's why you're playing it. That especially at a professional level. That's how you got there. So no, screw all that.
I know what coach you're talking about too. I give 110%. It's so funny. Some people are so bad at motivating people. Was that the same coach where like one of the guys wasn't like trying really hard during stretching, and the coach just said, "Well, if you're not going to try that hard, Rick, why don't you get the hell out of here?" And then he's just like, "Okay," and he just walked off the field, started walking home. Okay, that's not motivation. That's being a dick, you know. Like but to your point, like at that level, though, I feel like that. You know when Tom Brady won one of his many Super Bowls,
Asterisk.
and he's like, I remember him afterwards, him talking to Julian Edelman. He's like, I'm too old. They said you're too small and slow, but we did it anyway, man. Like they found a way to motivate themselves by cheating, and then also by labeling themselves as the underdog, right? Like nobody wants us to win. Everyone's against us. That's how they got to where they were. At least that's, what it sounded like. So I'm sorry, man.
That's how they motivated.
I don't agree with you. I think that there's always an extra level, like when you want to give up or you want to try not so hard, or you want to take, half a play off because the ball's not going in your direction and you're not giving it 100%. You see those guys sometimes on tape, like someone like Cover One or someone else will share film, and you'll see a guy that's not even running to try to tackle the guy that just,
I get the frustrations in it, but like you also have to think about like a lot of these guys are thinking about their next contract and like next team they can be with, so they're making their film as good as possible
in a contract year. Exactly.
What they want to get. Now there's some guys that go off the deep end, and what.
Are you talking about Christian Wilkins? He wasn't in a contract year. He went off the deep end.
For the most part, these guys. That's why you don't have to deal with teams tanking at the end of the season, because a lot of these players are playing their guts out, be on tape to show that they can prove their worth for another team, possibly.
Yeah. In a contract year, I totally agree with you.
And even if it's not contract year, even if it's like for a potential trade, or like in 2 years from now, I'll get my due. Like it, you got to think about that, and like plus the competitive part. Like even if you're like all right, my team sucks, but I'm still going to try hard because I'm going to see. Like I think I can still get this guy. I think I can still cover this guy. I think I still block this guy. I think I can still sack this guy. Like the competitive nature of the sport, like that's ingrained. Like I don't see how people can get away from that.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think there's a small level where you're just try so much harder all of a sudden. But like I agree that it's mostly balls to the wall all the time for sure. And I think with most players it's like that to a point. I just think there's always it's just like at work, John. John, this is a job for them. Like let's not forget, right? Like there are times at your job when you're either at your desk or out in the field or whatever, and you're just like, I can't freaking wait till Friday. Now, mind you, you're not in a contract year, right? You're not trying to you don't have those different like you want to be the best at what you do, but at the same time, like, is there a deadline fastly approaching? Oh, that deadline's 4 weeks away. I'm not going to kill myself right now, right? I'm not going to, work 65 hours because I got some time in between. So, or like, I'm not going to
No,
make.
I don't think so. I love what I do, and I think that I always everything that I do, I put my whole self into it, as much as I can, and
You,
and I always prepare myself as much as I can for each thing that comes along.
listen, far be it for me to criticize your work ethic whatsoever because I wouldn't do that. I'm sure you are trying as hard as you can at whatever you do, but the thing is, are you constantly looking at every minute? How can I? Oh, why am I still on the toilet? Looking at social media. I should be, out there, at my desk writing up a report or helping this guy over here at the, so and so. Like, there's ways if you broke down your
Well,
day,
upon going to the bathroom, that's like,
it's got to happen.
jeez.
I mean, there's times where I look
There's
back.
always
I'm like,
something. There's always something to do.
always. And like
Yep.
I'll work like a long day and I'll work and I'll be like, man, I was really productive that day. I did a lot of stuff. I was constantly busy. But if I really broke down my day, I'm sure there are areas if I wanted to, microscopically, oh, I should have, instead of doing that, I should have emailed that guy instead. Something stupid like that. I would have
Everybody
taken care of
makes
that,
mistakes.
prioritize that. What?
Yeah, everybody like makes mistakes and whatever, but like you learn from it and you grow.
Nobody makes mistakes ever, John. That's for sure. Like nobody tweets out things that they shouldn't have in regards to say things that weren't going to happen. No one does that. All right. People aren't allowed to make mistakes, actually. If you didn't
I
know that,
forgive you.
screw you. I don't want your forgiveness.
I
I
saw
don't,
that. I immediately texted everybody that I knew. 2
dude.
hours later, I'm sorry. It didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. If you think that was bad, imagine what I what I had to deal with by DMs and stuff. Pretty funny. So yeah. I get what you're saying. So I think it's a little bit of both, but agree to disagree. Agree to disagree on that one. So James Cook, you think here's a question for you. Then if you had to take a guess, does he come back? What's more likely that happens? That he gets a contract and comes back, or just comes back naturally, or holds in till week one? I guess what do you see as being the most likely outcome? It's tough, right?
Playing week 1 for sure. I'm not sure what happens before that.
I say, oh man, I agree with the week one. I don't think he gets the contract. So he either starts week
No.
one or here's one. This might throw everything off. Let's say he holds in all the way up until week one. And then the Bills realize they kind of got something in Ray Davis. Maybe James Cook isn't the starter week one. Wouldn't that throw a wrench in things? Right? I mean, that would be, and would they be wrong for doing that? Would you fault McDermott and the coaching staff for saying, hey, he's been here. He's been doing everything we've asked him to. Or would they have to, no matter what, no matter how good Ray Davis looks, they'd have to give the keys to the backfield to James Cook as being the starter? Because I think a hold-in could actually be detrimental if the Bills would consider starting someone else. So this is what I think, okay? Because I've been so good at predicting things lately. I predict that he does come back to practice at some point and he starts week one. I don't think he holds in for more than, maybe he comes back after, here it is, John. He comes back after the third preseason game and starts practicing in full. That's what happens. There you go.
Did you know that like Davis and Cook are basically the same age? They're both going to be 26 during the season.
No, I didn't know that. I knew Davis was old when we drafted him. Was he 24 when we drafted him?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be 26 in November, and Cook is gonna be like 26 in September or something like that. So
Jeez.
they're basically both the same age. But even though Cook's been on the team for like however long, so that's a factor. Like, because running backs hit the wall earlier. So like, if you're like, oh, we'll just replace him with Ray Davis. Well, he's the same age. So
Yeah, but
I think
he's on a rookie contract and he's not 30 yet.
Here's what I think is going to happen. James Cook is going to play for the Buffalo Bills this season, and then he's going to play somewhere else next season, and the Bills are going to draft somebody else to replace James Cook. Ray Davis will still be on the roster, but he's not going to be the starter. That's my prediction.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I can't disagree with any of that. I think that's exactly what happens to the T, and they draft someone else. Maybe I'm hoping it's
after they win the Super Bowl.
We won't even care. We'll if we're doing the podcast after the Super Bowl win, do I even give a shit about free agency or the draft?
Yeah, because they got to win more than one.
I mean, I care, but like it's just.
I mean, I know the first one's gonna be so huge. It's gonna be so good.
That's what she said. Yeah, it's like.
But yeah,
so huge.
But then after that, it's like, how many can he get? So.
That's what she said. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's going to be like, John, I can't imagine what it'll be like. And it's funny to try to think about what it'll be like when the Bills finally win a Super Bowl. But I suspect that we'll be we'll be riding Cloud 9 for so long that what does free agency start like a month and a half after, like 6 weeks, 6 weeks after the Super Bowl? Like we'll be talking free agency and we'll care. Because we're Bills fans. We want them to win more, like you said. But part of me kind of thinks like everything is just gravy after that, right? Like you want to win more. You want a dynasty.
You want to be the best dynasty, so we have to win more than any other team. So we got to win like 10 Super Bowls.
I don't know if it's because you have higher expectations than I do. I just want one. That's
the first thing, right? You got to get one first. Then, compound interest. You gotta get another one.
I will want another one. I'll be, I feel like I say this, but like as the season starts and I'll be just as hungry for another one to prove that, because everyone will say that's what'll happen. John, I can just predict it right now. In our heads as Bills fans, we're saying, oh, the Bills will win a Super Bowl and everything will finally like fall into place. We'll be in a good place, as a fan base, like we'll be able to die happy. But what'll happen is they'll say something to the effect of, oh, maybe the Bills didn't beat Patrick Mahomes to get to the Super Bowl. Like maybe they get knocked out of the first round.
No, I don't give a shit about that. Super Bowl is Super Bowl.
But
it's so hard to get there. It doesn't matter. No,
it won't matter to us because we'll just be happy to have one. But that's what all the Ravens fans will say and the Chiefs fans will say over social media. You didn't have to beat the Chiefs or the Ravens.
Well, we do play both those teams in the regular season, so
or that'll be even worse. Let's say they win it and they lose to one of them in the regular season. Those fan bases will say, "Well,
I don't care." No, seriously, it's a marathon, right? Like you gotta get to the end. No, I don't care about any of that stuff.
I care how you get there.
I care about getting it and winning it, and multiple times. It is a secondary. The first time's the one. Multiple times is the secondary. Screw all the other stuff.
Absolutely. Okay.
They're top of their division. They have a hard schedule. Like they're playing the Eagles and like Chiefs and all these teams. The Ravens, like. Those are three hardest teams. The Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, Ravens are the four hardest teams in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So they all play, I don't know if they all play each other, but the Bills play all of them, so whatever. Yeah. And they're going to have to play at least, I would imagine, some of those teams to get there in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So
the Bills are the most, did you know this, John? The Bills are the most bet-on team to win the Super Bowl in the AFC. Of all the teams that are bet on, the Bills have 27.5% of all the bets to win the Super Bowl of all AFC teams. I bet you can guess who number 2 is.
Ravens?
Yep. No, actually, it's not the Ravens.
Chiefs?
Number 2 is, Chiefs. And then the Ravens. And guess who's number 4? This is probably pretty easy, honestly.
Let me think. 4 Chargers? The AFC?
Yeah, AFC.
Chargers?
Think about the best quarterbacks in the AFC and then just put their team behind it. Not the
And that's
Chargers.
it's not the Bengals.
The Bengals are
The
fourth.
Bengals didn't do anything to improve their defense. They should not be number 4. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
maybe they're thinking Joe Burrow can just
Oh.
carry them.
No, Bengals aren't going to do anything. They might make playoffs, but they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not as worried about them. Of course, as a Bills fan, I'm always worried about all those teams in the playoffs because the Bills haven't beat the Bengals in the playoffs and they haven't beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. So, yeah. But
Yeah, so they lose to the Ravens.
so we mentioned like here's a couple of I wanted to go over a couple of quick training camp storylines that if you guys have or have not been following closely, these are just some of the things that people are reporting on that are good because we mentioned all the bad injuries, players not being out or not being able to practice. Great news on the cornerback front. We mentioned Dorian Strong looking good at getting second team reps. Christian Benford sounds like he's playing the best football he ever has in his career. Newly extended cornerback Christian Benford, starter there, sounds like he's playing unbelievably. Guys that are also on that level that sound like they're playing great in camp include Matt Milano, linebacker Matt Milano, fully healthy Matt Milano. That's great news for the Buffalo Bills. I guess, Jamarcus Ingram and Dorian Strong are fighting for that backup role behind Christian Benford and Trey White. So that's good to see. It sounds like Greg Rousseau is making a big impact in practice. AJ Epinesa had a really good practice today, which isn't something you've heard every day. He's kind of come up here and there, but he had a great practice today. Javon Solomon has been flashing at times, mostly in the pass rush, but that was never really his issue. It's just more of the run game where Javon Solomon, the second-year defensive end, has kind of struggled. But, John, we mentioned being high on Javon Solomon. This is a guy that I kind of want them to somehow find a role on passing downs to get him in. Like, find out in training camp and in the preseason where he excels the most, where he lines up the best, what kind of players he plays against or tackles that he's going up against in that situation so that Javon Solomon isn't inactive on game day and that he can be some sort of player for the Buffalo Bills in some sort of rotational role at some point because the Bills need to pass rush. They need to find a way to get some. So I haven't heard much from Landon Jackson, but Javon Solomon is a guy that, I'm still paying attention to and hoping we see more of.
Yeah, I like Solomon a lot. It's going to be tough because they have a ton of depth now at both end and tackle. But looking at end, you got Joey Bosa and Gregory Rousseau, and then you got Landon Jackson and AJ Epinesa. Epinesa's been looking good.
Contract year, John. I know you don't believe in contract years, but he's in a contract year.
Hoyt's been looking good, even though he's going to be suspended for the first 6 games. And then you got Solomon. So you got, he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within the top 6 in the defensive end position. Tough. I like him, but I do like the depth. It's a weird situation because you have a lot of depth at both end and tackle, but you want to hope that they get one of those starters that are like you hit on somebody, right? Instead of having everybody being just good or okay or decent, but like having like 1 or 2 stars on the line.
Yeah.
That would help a lot.
We don't want a log jam of average players. We want one of those guys. We want the cream somewhere to rise to the top. Like, I agree with you 100%. Like, there's a lot of players. Let's hope one of them stands out in that group and just becomes a monster, right? That's all we're hoping
for. For sure.
Because I agree, deep for sure. Deep with like a lot of potential defensive end like 2s, but we want a stud defensive end like a TJ Watt, right? Like, is this Gregory Rousseau's year to step in as that TJ Watt, right? Like, is it never going to come, or is it going to come this year or next year? Like, is that going to happen, or is Javon Solomon that guy, or is Michael Hoyt or AJ Epinesa, Joey Bosa, like Landon Jackson, like someone, one of you guys just like dominate,
Yeah, and can you imagine if they had 2 guys on the defensive line? Like, so, like, I know you got Ed Oliver, but like, let's say TJ Sanders or Dean Walker. I know he's kind of a bit of a project, or Ogunjobi. Like, Quan Jones isn't getting any younger, so like, if they get, if they hit twice, even if it's like a defensive end in a corner, like Hairston becomes a stud, like just or Bishop, like just. They hit on two guys on defense. Like, they would be so amazing.
So I'm glad you mentioned defensive tackle. So I was saying some things that were really positive about the Buffalo Bills from players that were looking good. But at defensive tackle, so, there's the three technique defensive tackle in Ed Oliver, like the penetrating sort of, get the running back behind the defensive line or behind the offensive line or shoot the gap to take down the quarterback, like the Ed Oliver type three technique. So it's Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders in that role for the most part. And then the one defensive tackle, you have Daquan Jones, which you mentioned, John. He's not getting any younger. He's not bad, but he's not quite the same player, right? I mean, it's just we're not all the same player. we're just all different after a certain age. The players that have been going behind him in Dwayne Carter and Deion Walker, the rookie, from the sounds of it, from the reports I've been reading, is that nobody's really standing out between that group. Like even Deion Walker, I mean, he's got the body of a one technique, but he's more of a penetrating defensive tackle. What is he, 364 pounds or whatever, right? Like big dude. But he doesn't necessarily have the strength to take on blockers at this point. So I don't know if if either of those guys is truly a backup or a future starter over Daquan Jones after this season. And I don't think either of them at this point sounds like they're going to take over his job. It's his job in 2025. It sounds like no matter what. And John, this kind of goes back to how you and I were looking at free agency at the draft. We were talking about defensive tackles. When you and I were talking about defensive tackles, like, sure, we would have loved a good pass rusher like TJ Sanders, right? Like that we were all fine with that. But we were also looking for a guy that could also play one technique and then like kind of do the pass rushing thing also, as opposed to the three technique that does pass rushing really well, but like doesn't do the run stuffing as well. You know what I mean? Like I guess that was kind of and we're stuck in the same position. If we look at the positional group of defensive tackle from that standpoint, like we're still stuck in the same situation. We don't have a great one tech defensive tackle for obvious rundowns, and we don't necessarily have a future plan for that. Whereas, last year in the safety group, okay, Cole Bishop didn't start last year. Damar Hamlin does. But we have a clear progression at that position where Cole Bishop will take over. We don't necessarily have that at one tech. So that's...
Do you think Larry Ogunjobi could contribute? I know he's out for 6 games. Could at least contribute to that this year?
Potentially, but again, he's more of like a three technique. He's like another... They're all kind of like hovering between 290 and 305. Like those guys. They're not huge and they're not taking on blockers and stuffing holes. They're just... They can... It's like they can moonlight at that role, but none of them have done it consistently, either in college or in any capacity really professionally. So all the guys that are doing it are being kind of pushed into that role that they haven't truly done yet, it seems. So not that they can't do it, but they just haven't proven it. And I was kind of hoping, like you mentioned, like you shove enough guys into this depth chart, and you're going to get a one technique somewhere that like is playing well and could potentially take over. But from the columns I've read, the podcasts I've listened to, it doesn't sound like from firsthand point of view from the group.
Yeah, it sounds like their best bet is that Deion Walker, but he's so raw that he's probably going to end up on the practice squad to begin with.
No way.
He's a fourth round pick. He's a fourth round pick, though.
Yeah, he's making the roster, dude. He's making the 53 for sure, I think. Fourth round picks don't get cut that often. When was the last time you remember a fourth round pick getting cut?
Especially at a position where the Bills need that kind of player. So he's going to be a guy to keep an eye on then. Like he could be that guy.
Or is he like one of those quote unquote injured reserve players and is a rookie says the entire season? So
you can't discount it. Like Kyle Williams was a fifth round pick, right? Yeah. So you never know with these guys.
No, he makes the team. I think easily Deion Walker, unless there's an injury, he makes the team.
And wasn't Kyle Williams the same draft as what was his name?
James McCargo.
John McCargo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's the same thing with like the Kyrie Christian Benford, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, you double dip and one of them hits and wasn't the one you expected.
Yeah, perfect analogy right there. Perfect. Kyrie Lim, Christian Benford. One's amazing and the other one can't stay on his feet. So it's so funny. It's so funny that they were so different, like McCargo and Kyle Williams. McCargo was out of the league probably in 3 years or whatever, and probably bounced around a couple of times because he was a first round pick. You know how those always get guys a few more chances, but I mean, career wise, you couldn't see a different one. One was a Pro Bowler, one lasted 12 years or whatever, and the other one was it's just crazy.
Yeah, like I mean, it's weird when you look at the draft. It's like the first round is basically like 50%. Like just overall, like forget like number 1 versus number 32, but like overall, it's like 50%, and then it just like the curve goes down from there each round. It's funny, but nobody can predict anything.
Well, like the Bills drafted Gregory Rousseau and Boogie Basham, right? Who's still on the team.
Yeah.
Right. And then the same thing with what was it? Spencer Brown and Tommy Doyle. Now, Tommy Doyle was injured and he had to retire early.
Yeah, Tommy Doyle is good, I think. He just got unfortunate injuries, yeah.
I mean, but you have to factor that in. Unfortunate injuries, like that happens. It's not a predictor. It's not necessarily a knock on the player versus not being able to pan out. But like injuries are a thing. If you can't stay, I mean, look at Percy Harvin. Had all the talent in the world, but he could not stay on the field. And he dealt with a lot of issues. Now you don't point at the finger at those people. How could you be injured? How could you deal with migraines? Like it's not their fault, but it's still in the end, they weren't able to play when, they could have, or when their career would have lasted longer if they could have, because they were so talented. So yeah, same thing with Tommy Doyle. It sucks. I'm glad he's, not in the league so that he can focus on getting healthy, but you can't look at that draft pick as like, oh, it was a good draft pick. I mean, it just didn't pan out. And that's fine because it did for Spencer Brown, and that's all that matters. He's amazing, right? So we're lucky that one of those two guys we hit on. Joe. Oh yeah, another quick hit on players is Joe Andreessen. Joe Andreessen sounds like he's eyeing that middle linebacker backup role behind Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard didn't play or didn't practice recently, or he was limited in practice, I should say. So I don't think that's an issue. That wasn't one of the non-participants of the 13 that we mentioned earlier, but Joe Andreessen sounds like he's outright going to make the team. Whereas last year was a good story. This year sounds like he's going to outright make the team and possibly be the starting backup, or not the starting backup, the backup behind starter Terrell Bernard at a very important position. That's not, I mean, he's a quarterback of the defense, right? So a middle linebacker. So
yeah, I already had him penciled in behind Bernard, so that's not a surprise.
It's good. It's good for him. Good. Buffalo Joe back in the picture. John, is there anything else you want to hit on before we end this one? Because this has been a fun conversation.
I don't think so. I mean, they got a new punter, I guess. I think they just have one on the roster now, right? Or at least as of a few weeks ago.
Do they have another one besides Brad Robbins?
I think he might be it. Unless I'm mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's different. I know we've had discussions about punter the last few years, especially after we missed out on Azaria. But I don't know. I haven't really seen Brad Robbins played, so I have no idea.
I mean, if you read reports between him and I can't remember McNamara, whoever it was before that, it sounded like Robbins was the better of the two punters in mini camp and then going into training camp. So it's not too much of a surprise. I think what happens, John, is that at some point, due to salaries, it's just like how we got that guy from, now I'm forgetting names all of a sudden, of the punter that we had who was starting last year. Why am I from Denver? He came from Denver a couple of years ago. Wasn't Matt Hawk. I'm just blanking right now, but I think a guy potentially gets cut from another team, like a veteran, because they have a younger guy that's, flashier on a cheaper deal and they can save money. So then all of a sudden we get somebody's, cut. I think that then they compete, and then we see, in the last week or two of training camp, who the better punter is. I think that that's something that definitely is a possibility.
Maybe. Or Brad Robbins is amazing. We don't know.
I hope he is. Wouldn't that be great?
Remember Brian Mormon was the best player in our team once upon a time?
Yeah. Yep.
It was like so awesome and sad at the same time.
Was that pre-Kyle Williams, or was that before Kyle Williams really took off? Must have been pre.
No, it's even before, because Kyle Williams is he was drafted in 2005, right? Mormons was on the team I think 2000.
Oh, okay.
So I think there was a stretch. Well, Schobel came on 2001, so he was good. Yeah, I mean, either way, having your punter being one of the best players is pretty sad.
It was. Oh man, he was so good though. I love Mormon.
Oh.
He was so easy to. He did everything. Remember, there was a one like botched snap that he took, and he didn't have time to punt it because
He
of
just ran it for the
he just ran
first
it for the first
down.
down.
I think he threw a pass to somebody. Was it who did he throw it to?
Was it Denny? It was your boy Denny, wasn't
Ryan,
it?
was it Ryan
I
Denny?
think it might have been
Oh my gosh.
Denny or Kelsey. Maybe it was Kelsey. It might have been Kelsey at the time.
Either way.
Now I gotta Google that. John, one thing I wanted to bring up is just food for thought. We don't have to discuss it. We don't have to have comments on it. Whatever you think. But Warren Sharp had like a really interesting video he posted on Twitter. Now, mind you, I've been obviously trying to stay off of Twitter a little for obvious reasons, but he said a harsh and truthful look at Sean McDermott. Josh Allen is the number one best playoff quarterback since 2020. Even in losses, Allen is the number one best statistically, but McDermott's defense allows 33 points per game in playoff losses. Kansas City versus the Bills defense, 35 points per game. Kansas City versus everyone else in the playoffs, Kansas City's offense only scores 25 points per game. So when you see those statistics, I mean, we always knew the defense was kind of an issue, right? When it came down to it, they've always, I don't think most people blame Josh Allen year in and year out for the losses at the end of the season. But it was interesting seeing Warren Sharp, who I respect, put out those stats like that and put it so succinctly. And at least at this point, I don't really have a time to really argue against it.
Yeah, I saw that. And like everybody's like, oh, it's like always the quarterback. But it's not always the quarterback. Sometimes it's the defense, even when the quarterback plays phenomenal. So you got to put blame on the defense.
Yep, defense and coaching. It's
I mean, it's different each time. I mean, like it definitely, I put it on McDermott for the 13-second thing, and that whole sequence of events. But like, there's other games like last year where you have injuries where Kyler Elam has to play. It's like, well, it's like, okay, they got injured. Like, what are you going to do at that point? So it varies, the reasoning, but it has been the defense predominantly. It's not because of the offense, not because of Josh Allen. Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the league.
Mhm.
So I don't know. The offensive line is really good. They've had Cook and Shakir. They've like in 20. Doesn't matter what season you look at. They've had good. Freaking McCallum's is good, right? Like it doesn't matter. It's been more the defense, and their best defense was the year of 13 seconds.
And they were actually healthy for once, which is
right. And that was
rare.
They were at their healthiest that year too. So that was mistakes were made that year, and they haven't been able to recover because they haven't been able to get the same players back each year, and they have the same continuity on defense. So that really stinks. But yes, last year was supposed to be a year of transition. They're like, oh, they're not going to do anything, and they made it the AFC Championship anyway. So hopefully this year they take that next step.
Yeah, John, this I think this could be the year. Should I tweet over Twitter or X or whatever saying breaking this definitely won't be the year just to jinx ourselves back into it being the year? Because I feel like that could help. If that would help, I would take on the onslaught of angry Twitter. If that meant we would win a Super Bowl, I would easily do that.
I feel like if you did that a few days ago and then like a day after said like, hey, sorry, we got hacked, like then everything would have been fine. But
I know I should have used the old hacked excuse. Oh, that would have been great. Do you remember when that happened to Josh Allen's ex-girlfriend Brittany after someone said something to her and she's just like, "Oh, my account got hacked." Right? Like she said something about Josh having CTE or something like that. It was someone finally got her to say something in her Instagram page. And yeah, I got hacked. Like, really? Did you get hacked? And then someone shared it from like Bill's Mafia Instagram, and she messaged them like, "Hey, please take that down. I was hacked. I didn't say that, or I didn't mean to say that, or whatever." Too late now. So I was like, man, how come I don't get to use that excuse? So anyway, I might have been hacked. So thank you guys all for listening. Thank you guys for being a part of this. Training camp's in full swing. Hoping to get out there in the next week or so. And if I do, I'll give live reports, or at least maybe afterwards. Maybe I'll record that night when they go. Oh, then Hard Knocks starts this week in 2 days, August 5th, for the Buffalo Bills. So that should be fun. So hopefully you guys are all watching. Give us your thoughts or whatever. Email us, tweet at us, and let us know your thoughts on Hard Knocks. And yeah. So thank you guys all for listening. So signing off for John.
Go Bills.
And for me, Nate, go Bills. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.
Buffalo, hey, let's go Buffalo, hey, let's go Buffalo. Find us out in the parking lot. We got the tailgate down in our favorite spot. We're all fired up and our friends are here. We got some damn good food and a ton of beer. It's finally Sunday. We can't wait for the Bills to play. So kick it off, 12 men. Let's hear you scream. Let's hear you scream. Let's hear you scream. It's finally Sunday. We can't wait for the Bills to play. So kick it off, 12 men. Let's hear you scream.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.